Mayor, we are live. You may start the meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. It is now 2:32. Today is, God, what day is it? Wednesday, July 15th. It's about 2:32. This is an emergency city council meeting on the Isle of Palms, virtual city council meeting due to the COVID-19 pandemic. I'd like to welcome our public. I hope everybody knows by now, after 15, 16 meetings, that you can watch us live on YouTube. We've had over 320 some odd public comments. We thank everybody for sending in their comments. They've been very helpful. Our agenda is, number one, just do our roll call before we get into it. Nicole?
Councilmember Streetman?
Present.
Councilmember Bell?
Here.
Councilmember Moy?
Here.
Councilmember Pounds?
Here.
Councilmember Smith?
Here.
Councilmember Ward?
Here.
Councilmember Buchanan? Councilmember Popson? Mayor Carroll?
Here, thank
We have a
you.
quorum.
Thank you very much. This is a special council meeting. I'd like to call it to order and acknowledge that both the press and the public were duly notified of this meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. We're getting here today because we've had two meetings prior to this. One on Monday with the greater Charleston mayors of Charleston, North Charleston, Kiowa, Sullivan's Island, Mount Pleasant, Edisto, Folly Beach, and talking about the ever-growing pandemic. It's not going down, it's going up. We are on Isle of Palms alone, we have 33 positive cases, and it's been going up daily. From that meeting on Monday, we had another meeting yesterday with the beach mayors, Edisto Island, Folly Beach, Sullivan's Island, and Isle of Palms. And we were all talking about everybody is wanting to take drastic steps to do whatever we can to lower the exposure to this pandemic that's taking spread here. We have with us today, again, Dr. O'Brien, and I'd like for him from the MUSC to kind of give us an update on where they stand and how we look across Charleston. Dr. O'Brien, are you with us?
Mayor, I don't think he has joined yet, but he did say that he was available at 2:30, so it may be a few minutes. We may have to wait a few minutes for him.
Okay, well then let me just at least start with the purpose of the meeting. This is a consideration of emergency ordinance 2020-11, an ordinance to prohibit coolers, chairs, umbrellas on the beach, prohibit live entertainment and amplified music after 9 p.m., limit to 50% indoor occupancy of restaurants and bars, and other emergency measures proposed for the safety and public health of the city of Isle of Palms.
Motion to approve, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Is that a motion? That a motion?
Yes, sir.
Yes, a motion to approve.
Second.
I have an amendment. Mr. Mayor, I have an
Yes.
amendment.
Yes, sir. Let's hear your amendment, sir.
Okay, my amendment is to strike or,
But wait a minute, do we have a second?
I seconded it.
Okay, thank you.
the
Go ahead.
amendment is to strike the language in the emergency ordinance 2020-11, strike prohibit coolers, chairs, and umbrellas on the beach, and add prohibit parking on the landward side of Palm Boulevard, reduce parking in the city lots by 50% for 30 days, commencing Friday, July 17th.
I
Okay.
second that.
We have a motion for amendment and a second. Any discussion on this?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I don't know if this would be in the form of an amendment or whatever, but I would also include the avenues, the finger streets, 3rd through 9th Avenue, I think it is, that we'll have the parking. I would like to see us restrict parking there as well.
Is that an addition, Rusty? If it is, I would approve
Yes, it would be,
I
Councilman.
would approve that, adding that language to the just the original amendment.
Okay, before we get into any further, Councilmember Bell.
Yeah, if we're going to be aggressive, and if it's for 30 days or 61, I know we can go 61 days. Guys, this is time to go all in. Let's eliminate parking on Palm Boulevard. Two things. We're going to pack them in on the beach side. Secondly, the beach side right now is destroyed. It is absolutely a train wreck of mud and mess out there. And if we're going to do this, we're doing this with an intent to frankly limit the amount of, so just say it, day trippers coming to the island. Let's go all in. And I'd like to see this amended to eliminate parking on Palm Boulevard, period, for this period of time. And I will make that in the form of an amendment to the amendment. If
Hang on a second, Nicole, please.
I'm just trying to figure out if he can do that.
Well, I mean, if Councilmember Ward wishes to do that, he can do it in the original motion or make
Friendly suggestion, Randy.
Yeah.
Maybe what would you think about voting on the amendment and then you present a whole new motion? That's
fine as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So let's clarify this, Nicole. I'm hearing, the non-ocean side of Palm.
Well, he's striking the language about, I'm trying to find it. Said
prohibit coolers,
beach chairs, shade devices, and coolers, striking that language and adding in prohibiting parking on the land side of Palm Boulevard, limiting the municipal lots to 50%, and the as well as I'm eliminating parking on the finger streets of 3rd through 9th avenues beginning 7/17 for 30 days. Is that correct, Councilmember Ward?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, before we go any further, I see Dr. O'Brien is with us. He has been extremely helpful throughout this whole process. And Dr. O'Brien, welcome back with us. I can't thank you enough. And we were talking about doing umbrellas and coolers and chairs on the beach. And now we're thinking about, instead of doing that, eliminating parking on half of Palm Boulevard. Would you give us an update on where we stand with MUSC and across Charleston in the COVID-19 pandemic?
Mr. Mayor, point of
Sure.
order. Point of order, Mr. Mayor. I think we should vote on the ordinance first and then hear from Dr. Bryan.
Okay.
Wait, I disagree. We should,
Susan, let's ask Desiree. Desiree, are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. What I would recommend is to hear from Dr. O'Brien before you take any action in the event that any other amendments maybe want to be considered.
Susan, are you agreeable with that?
yes, that was my concern, but I'd like to hear from Dr. O'Brien before we take votes.
Thank you. Dr. Bryan.
All right, thank you very much. So you probably have read in the paper that there's been an increase in cases, of course, of coronavirus. Charleston proper, I should say, is being one of the hot spots, actually one of the hottest spots in the United States. So hospitalizations are also up regionally, I would say, between Roper, MUSC, and Trident. Hospitalizations are all up for coronavirus. And this is not unexpected. We knew when we lessened our precautions that there would be an increase in cases. I don't know that anybody predicted quite this fast of an increase, but certainly observing patterns of people in the community is not surprising. So we are in the process of helping and advise the school board and all kinds of businesses around on safe reopening practices or how to roll back certain things that need to be rolled back. And I sent out, I'm not sure if it went out to the group, but did you guys get the link to the Georgia Tech
Yes.
website where you can map? Okay. So there's some interesting things like that. And the majority of the problems that we're seeing now are due to places that are highly trafficked, which makes sense, and certainly indoor places. I'm sure you saw some data from the WHO that does show the potential, at least for some airborne circulation of the virus, which makes most sense in enclosed interior locations with low low airflow or high encapsulated or encompassed airflow, and then also, with just a lot of people in there. So as you move forward, I think the most important things to consider are gatherings of large groups. And as you saw on that website, even a group of 10 has a 66% chance of having someone COVID positive in the group. Once you get over 20, it's a 99% chance in our certain area of Charleston. So I think considering group environments and considering indoor exposures are probably some of the most important things you guys could consider to really decrease the spread.
Dr. O'Brien, I tried to explain, we were at first looking at trying to eliminate umbrellas, coolers, and chairs on the beach. And we've kind of gone a different direction to limit the number of people coming to the island. And the problems we have is at low tide, people can social distance pretty well. But as that tide comes in, there's really no way that we can have proper social distancing. So I think this idea of eliminating parking or reducing it greatly is probably a great idea. Could we have some comments from your direction?
Sure. I don't know enough about logistics of parking to comment on that, but I can say, limiting the amount of people and large groups of people, especially who aren't able to socially distance, is certainly a wise initiative and intervention, I think. And I believe, I could be mistaken, but I believe most of the other beaches around have kind of what you guys did up front when you guys had to kind of stay in motion. And I guess that's what would be accomplished by no coolers and blankets or umbrellas. So I think that sounds wise as well.
I think that one's going out the window from the sounds of where we're at so far. And I wasn't asking you to, I apologize for the way I said that. Not so much for your opinion on parking, but just reducing the number of people on the beach. More because as the tide comes in, we're pushed into a small slither of sand.
Sure. Yeah, I would think if you can't properly socially distance, I think limiting the amount of people on the beach makes sense. I will say the transmission outdoors, is not as high as indoors, obviously. So, as we transition to more indoors or air conditioned things, or I read in the paper that people were considering something about noise and parties and events after a certain time and all that kind of stuff is going to have an even bigger impact, I think.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Question 4. Yes, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you again, Dr. O'Brien, for joining us. And from everything that I've read, the much larger concern is indoors versus outdoors. And if you could speak more to that, I have a concern about an unintended consequence about limiting the number of people who can safely, limiting the number of people who can enjoy the outdoor experience at the beach if it then forces or pushes people to more indoor interactions if they don't have good options for outdoor ways of recreation. Would you agree that potentially that could be an issue if people wind up staying indoors versus outdoors if they don't have outlets?
I would agree. I think that could be a potential unintended negative consequence of limiting outdoor activity, would be pushing people to indoors. Also, you don't want what happened in the beaches before where people felt limited and all of a sudden the restrictions lessen and then people flock to the beach. There's been case reports, obviously, of some sort of transmission outdoors. However, we're really, really concerned about crowds and indoor locations to a much, much higher degree.
More questions.
Thank
you. Bell.
Yeah, it's a question and a comment. I think the bigger concern, and Dr. O'Brien, I would presume there's agreement that the density of people within an area, and Mayor Carroll pointed out the low tide. And before you joined the call, we were getting towards, where would we restrict what we do with parking? I think the broader concern, and I do recall one of your prior meetings with us, you had stated that you would not bring your family here for vacation pretty much through July. We have 980 people per square mile as a demographic for this island. It's 6 times the state average. When you look at where the density of population is on the island, when we start referencing people visiting and wanting to be outdoors, it's largely between 21st and 42nd Avenue. There was a recent Public Safety Committee meeting where Stan Tech outlined the overlap where the cars were parking. Would you not have a great concern if not only are we, approaching the densities of major cities, and then we look at the tidal changes? And I fully respect, people's right to come to the beach, but I think more than anything, I'd like to hear or have some concurrence that we're not in an ordinary time, and this is a residential island. We're at a time where if we don't do something now, we are going to be dealing with an extreme shutdown. And I know that's commentary, Dr. O'Brien, but would you agree that, frankly, it's time for some extraordinary measures across the state to get this under control so we can have some return to normalcy?
Yeah, I would. Yeah, that would. There's some debate over what is considered extreme or not. Some people in South Carolina consider wearing a face mask extreme, and I don't. So yeah, I would make the argument that I don't think we've done many measures at all in South Carolina, and like I said, we entered into phase 2 before accomplishing phase 1. We entered into phase 3 before accomplishing phase 1 or 2. So, I agree with you that small interventions, even like some of the ones you're talking about now, probably are going to need to happen to prevent larger, really disastrous interventions from happening again. I would agree with you.
Thank you.
And so anybody else for Dr. O'Brien? Councilman Streetman, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Dr. O'Brien, for being here again with us. Well, one of the things, just a couple of comments here. I know early on, also when you were meeting with us, you had given some advice, along with some of our administration too, that we really needed to probably hold off on reopening as quickly as we did. And, and we did reopen, I think, probably sooner than we should have, and we may be paying for some of that now. I guess looking at it now from my standpoint, it seems to me that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Doctor, I don't want to put words in your mouth and all, but to me, the beach, outside, the sunshine, it's all therapeutic for people. I mean, they've been locked in so far. I know we have a problem on Front Beach, and Doctor, you probably aren't aware of that since I'm sure you haven't been down there, but Front Beach gets awfully crowded, tough to social distance. But I think some of the things that we're talking about recommending today or would help us alleviate that somewhat, because we could have beach service officers spend their time down near the Front Beach rather than patrolling up and down Palm and some other areas where we limit parking. So, Doc, I don't know if there's a question there for you, but I maybe a comment about what the beneficial effects would be on the outdoors versus being clustered inside somewhere in a crowded setting.
Sure. I think most important, I think you got it right. Most important is avoiding the crowds. I have been to the beach at Palms a couple of times recently. Actually, I typically go, after work, so I'm there. It was probably not as crowded when I'm going in the evening, but avoiding the crowd is definitely should be the primary focus of whatever you guys decide to do, because that's where your transmission is going to happen. Outdoors, in and of itself, is not a risk factor.
Councilmember Moore.
Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you again, Dr. O'Brien. I just want to relay to you or restate the proposed ordinance and then ask you if you have any additional recommendations or changes that we should consider. So right now, with the proposed amendments and the existing ordinance with the proposed amendments, what we would be doing is reducing the indoor capacity of existing restaurants and bars and event spaces to 50% occupancy per the fire marshal code. We would be restricting parking to 50% of the city lot, which is down at Front Beach, and we would be removing parking all along Palm Boulevard in its entirety. I think, and please correct me, any of my colleagues on council or mayor or Desiree, if I missed anything, but I think that's the gist of what is on the table right now.
Also 3rd through 9th, council.
Right, and the 3rd through 9th, and the music out, and no music or event,
Correct.
major event activity after 9 p.m. Sorry, so that's what's on the table. I hope that was clear, Dr. O'Brien. If not, I can try and clarify. Otherwise, I'd love to know if you have any alternative actions that you think we should consider, or any changes to what we have on the table now.
No, I think some of those sound good. I would say in all the things you consider, I would just have in the back pocket, just to be considering that, what of this is going to limit crowds? Is this the best way to limit, groups of people 10 or more? I mean, you should not be in groups of 10 or more. I don't know if 50% occupancy, what that looks like in these restaurants and stuff like that. I really don't. I just don't know restaurant to restaurant. I think outdoor dining would be preferred. Outdoor dining and carry out would be preferred, of course. So I don't know the inside to that. If you can keep it to 10 or less, I don't know if that's a possibility. Something to consider. I think the parking, if that is going to accomplish the objective of preventing crowds, I don't know. I don't know if people would just park somewhere else and walk and make a crowd, or if it makes more sense to police the crowds themselves. I don't know enough logistically to know that, but I would just say, if you think it's the best way to limit groups of people gathering 10 or more, then it makes sense. Otherwise, it might not.
That's great. Thank you.
Anyone else? Before we move on, I would, like to just give my 10-cent worth is, I totally agree with limiting parking. We were already moving towards that. In fact, it was going to be on the agenda for this month's council meeting on the non-ocean side of Palm. But in essence, what we're doing is we're blocking parking for everyone coming to Isle Palms, except for the front beach area. And that's the way I read that. Is this correct?
Well,
What?
That's what it sounds like to me, but I would like to, if there are no more questions for Dr. O'Brien, I would like to hear from our police chief and hear what his take is on the potential consequences some of these actions could have for traffic and parking enforcement. I mean, I've heard it mentioned that this might make it simpler for officers, but I can think of a variety of complications it could create for officers if we totally eliminate parking on Palm. So. That was not me. I don't think.
We didn't catch you.
My bad.
I thought it was an introduction for me to start speaking. It's difficult when I look at these things. So anytime you eliminate parking or the number of parking spaces, especially in an area where there has commonly been parking for decades, it is something where people are going to come expecting to find that parking there. When it's not there, you will see traffic back up because they're looking for those spots. People aren't going to drive all the way from wherever they drove from to get here, see no parking, and turn around and just go to Cracker Barrel and go home. They're going to come here. They're going to look for that parking. They want to go to the beach. If they're anything like my kids, they've told them they're coming to the beach, and then you don't back out on that once you've said you're going somewhere with your kids. So we're going to see traffic that's going to back up. We will see, even if you block it off, you're going to have traffic parking issues where people are going to continue to park there. They're going to just say, we're going to get the tickets. So the thought that we could reduce the number of BSOs that were on parking enforcement to put them on the beach, maybe, we wouldn't know until we saw it and how it turned out. The signs were very successful with the double parking, and that entire approach worked quite well for us. And we were able to remaneuver some of our BSOs to help with some of those other things. I don't know that would be the case with this. We won't know until we try it. I do think it will cause backup for traffic. The other part I would point is anytime you have multiple ordinances that we're trying to enforce in different layers at one time, you can't be really good at everything. You're going to be somewhat good at this or somewhat good at that, but you're not going to be perfect or remotely close to perfect at any of those. So whatever you take, if we span the different areas where we have to step up enforcement or enforce different ordinances, understand that it's not going to be beautiful. It's not going to be 100%. It's going to be the best that we can do with what we've got. And the more that we have to move resources to address different things, the less we can focus on some other areas. If that makes sense.
Councilmember Buchanan and Councilmember Bell. Ryan, I thought you had your hand up.
Not yet. I came in late to the meeting. I had a computer problem. Went through an update. So I'm just sitting here kind of listening, trying to catch up.
Okay, Councilmember Bell.
Yeah, it's, you know, we're going to have unintended consequences, which, by the way, we have unintended consequences right now called coronavirus. So, you know, I think everyone needs to focus on the primary objective is reducing the amount of people coming. So in, you know, roughly 350 emails today, I would say 90% of them were from people that were vehemently against the chair rules, the umbrella rules, and totally understand it. They've paid to come here. Their families have been planning this for a while. We're not restricting any beach access to them. We're not restricting any chair, umbrella, cooler activity for them. What we are saying, the Isle of Palms is not open fully for business right now. I mean, I love some of the emails. Hey, Disney World is open. Newsflash, we're a residential community. We're not Disney World. We have a concern on our hands that our population density is off the charts with 25,000 cars a day on the weekend coming to the island without our ability to accommodate them. On the umbrella stuff, which I agree with where we're heading with this with council, my big concern there, Folly Beach will pass it, Sullivan's Island's had it in place. What do we think the consequences are going to be of people trying to park here when they realize that the Isle of Palms is the only place you can bring a chair, a cooler, and an umbrella? So to the broader point, if we don't get aggressive and take action now, and I've been very consistent in my comments with council from day one, right? I recall saying months ago, we have two triggers. One is parking, one is closing the beach. We're not going to close the beach if we don't get aggressive around parking. We are going to be inundated again because other communities are going to take the extreme measures that we are not going to take. We have way more vacation visitors, I think, than the other islands. And in all due respect to them, they plan on coming here. They're spending money to come here. They're welcome to come here. But we've got to get our arms around the day tripping and the parking on Palm Boulevard right now. Sorry for the long ramble.
Councilmember Pounds.
Almost forgot what I was going to say, Randy, but that was good. Yeah, I definitely agree with the direction we're headed to reduce the crowds. And Susan, there are going to be unintended consequences, but I think the signage, the big digital signage worked, the social media push out worked, the Beach Reach app is now out there. I mean, I just think we have to rely on some of these tools to help us control the flow and be really aggressive with our output, because that really does seem to have worked in the prior few weeks. So I very much like where we're headed, and would not hurt my feelings to see us become even more aggressive around the parking, but at least to cut out Palm and half the municipal lots and the avenues, I think is absolutely the right direction. Thank you, Mayor.
Anyone else?
Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
So two questions. Is there going to be any consideration about the penalty associated with violating the new no parking, emergency no parking rule? If so, what would that be? And also we need to talk about effective date.
Yep. I think it's a great idea, Desiree.
Chief, can we use the same $100 parking fine that we have already in place?
Yes, sir. I think that's already built into all of our other parking violations. So I would imagine that would fall right in line with parking and no parking zone.
And emergency orders are good for 30 days or 61 days. That's our decision on what we want to do here.
Correct, 61 days.
Okay.
Unless you all want to reduce that number for less days. You all have that prerogative.
The current amendment on the floor is effective July 17th for 30 days.
July 17th, 30 days.
Thank you, Nicole.
Okay, Councilmember Smith.
I had another question for the chief, which was to speak to the issue of crowding. When crowding is an issue from 21st to 41st, and or if it is an issue where you have concerns about social distancing in that stretch. My gut would tell me that it's really more of a problem around the Front Beach area. And if we then remove parking altogether on Palm, I'm not against removing it on the landward side for the long term, actually. But if we remove it altogether on Palm, could we not be creating more crowds in the Front Beach area?
So we do not have an issue with the social distancing along the beach from 21st to 41st. When people first go out and you look at it from a certain angle, it appears so. But the reality is we're only telling people they have to be 6 feet apart, and it's really not as far apart as we like to think that it is, or that we imagine in our head. I think in our head, we expect people to really distance out in a more acknowledged way, like at a greater distance. But 6 feet really isn't far. And the reality is Front Beach already has the largest number of people that are there. And even in those areas, it's very few times that we would come across a group of people that were not socially distanced from the other families. So 6 feet really isn't far. But if you do eliminate parking on Palm Boulevard and the only parking that is available, logically one would assume that all of the visitors would be in that one congregated area. People don't typically walk out to the beach and then spread out along the 7 miles that are available. They go to the closest area where they could find a plot of sand. They throw their stuff down and their kid starts digging up sandcastles. And that's kind of what we would see. I think we would see the large number of people would be in the Front Beach area. And I think that would be the reason that to reduce the parking there, but you're still forcing everybody to be in that one general area for parking, unless they have residential parking passes that allow them to park along the finger streets of Palm Boulevard.
And a follow-up question, I don't think it's been discussed whether we would not allow golf cart parking on Palm, whether this strictly applies.
Residential.
Hmm?
That'd be residential.
But our residents aren't, so we're saying this is only for, we're only restricting parking on Palm for non-residents?
Chief?
The way I heard the amendment would be that we're eliminating parking on Palm Boulevard. That's
Okay.
for lottie-dottie everybody. And that would include any golf carts, because we treat golf carts just like we do a motor vehicle that parks. And so basically there would be zero parking along Palm Boulevard. Where the residents have the ability to park would be on those finger streets, the avenues where they can park because they have the residential decals. That would be the only exception to that.
Councilmember Creed?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, well, we hadn't gotten that far in the discussion as to who would be, allowed to park on Palm or whatever. But my thoughts on that would be that we would allow anyone with a resident sticker to park their golf cart or their car on Palm. That would be an exception. That that if you're a resident or a visitor that's here that's renting a home or whatever, and you have a rental cart, if you've got the proper credentials, you ought to be able to park.
1 second. Do we need Dr. Edward O'Brien? I mean, we're wasting a lot of his valuable time, and he's helped us a great deal. And I don't want to waste his time because we're going to need him again in the future.
Yes, we will.
So do we need him to continue with us while we hash out these details?
No. But thank you, Dr. Bryan.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thanks,
Bryan,
Dr.
All right.
thank you.
Thank you, Dr. O'Brien.
Thank y'all. Thank you. Take care. Bye. Thank you.
Okay, Councilmember Bell.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. The number of unregistered carts, uninsured golf carts, no resident stickers is off the charts on the island. So we ought to be clear. Many of these have changed hands 6 times before they wind up at a rental property. So I'm fully supportive of properly insured and credentialed golf carts parking along Palm Boulevard, just for what that's worth. Just one other comment to the parking along Palm Boulevard. I have as large a concern about them frequenting the Harris Teeter, the marina, and jamming. And by the way, I've called corporate Harris Teeters, talked to 2 executives there, talked to the store manager. We know the limitations of mask enforcement. Again, limiting the number of people that cause exposure. And the one statistic Dr. O'Brien said in at X amount of people, it's a 99% certainty. This is all about limiting the number of people. It's not just a parking issue. And we are going to suffer unintended consequences until we get through this. You know, please, everyone, think about the totality of this so we don't have to have number 16 meeting.
Councilmember Pounds.
I was just going to say real quick, Mayor, and maybe this is for the chief. You know, I'm all for residents having a spot to park by the beach, but if we rope those areas off, you know, how's anybody going to get into it if I'm a resident on a golf cart or a car? Like I say, I'm certainly in favor of allowing something for the residents, but Chief, I guess if we're going to rope those areas off, how would anybody park there? That may be rhetorical, I don't know, but
I don't think we could really rope it off. I don't know that that's necessarily feasible. We could rope off half of the municipal parking lots. Those are easy to do. But honestly, the only thing I could come up with that we could do along Palm Boulevard is signage, and public media information, and then citations.
Yeah,
you would make sure you made that change to the amendment to say that residents would be allowed. Otherwise, the way it sounds is parking is eliminated, period.
Our city administrator already called out as for signage, and they can be delivered on Thursday. Is that correct, Desiree?
Well, we can, once the decision is made, we can make an order, and they said roughly a 24-hour turnaround. I just want to let everybody know that the digital sign that we had at the entrance of the IOP connector was removed by Charleston County. It was a loan by Charleston County, and they took it back. And we've been trying for a couple of days to get it back, but no guarantee there. We're going to see if we can find one somewhere else, but just want to give you all a heads up that it hasn't been there for a few days.
Okay, Councilmember Smith, please.
I think it's worth pointing out that parking was not part of the discussion or our agenda. It was not listed in our agenda. For all the comments that we've received around the other issues, vocal comments about what we can bring to the beach, most people are unaware that we're discussing some pretty significant issues around restrictions around parking. For the record, I'm fine with removing landside parking along Palm. We were already moving in that direction anyway from our previous meetings, so that should come as no surprise. But I think it would come as a surprise if we seriously remove all parking along Palm as well as the finger streets and reduce parking by 50% in the lots. I also think, as we've heard the chief state, there is no problem with social distancing from 21st to 41st. So it does not seem like that is really a relevant solution that we should be discussing right now. My concern about the land side of parking on Palm is more around the safety issues of crossing the street and all of those other parking and traffic issues. But to say that we're concerned about social distancing when from 21st to 41st, when our chief has told us that is not an issue, is not a good argument for us, nor is it relevant for us to say that we're concerned about the traffic in the Harris Teeter and tie that to parking on from 21st to 41st for day trippers. To say that we're restricting opportunities for people to come to the beach in our area, for them to not have the opportunity to be in a healthy outdoor space. We should not just be concerned about our island and the residents here, but about our greater community. And really the greater community is where the high number of the spike is coming from. It's not coming so much from our island residents. We have a low percentage of island residents compared to our state and national. Well, I'm not sure about national, but to our state spread.
Susan, thank you. Just so under number 2, it says other emergency measures proposed for the safety and public health of the city of Isle Palm. So really parking does come into play.
Yep.
Councilmember Pounds and then Councilmember Streetman.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Susan, not here yet. I think the chief said, between those 2 avenues or roads, there's not social distancing, but that does not mean it's not at the teeter, at the marina, at the butcher shop, at whatever else. I mean, I think we have got to take some type of drastic measure to stop the crowds coming onto this island. And I cannot fathom you would have a resident not be in favor of what we're getting ready to talk about or vote on here personally. So I think we are resident first here, and I think it's the right path to limit it severely, whatever we decide that is here today. But I think we have got to take something drastic here today as a council. So thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Streetman. Councilmember Streetman.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I pretty much want to echo what Philip said, but it really, I mean, the parking got pulled into this, and of course, it's part of the amendment the Council Member Ward made also, and limitations of parking. That's how we got rolling on this. But still, this is a situation where we've got to be radical. It's not reducing traffic. It's about reducing exposure to the potential of COVID-19. I think what was initially proposed was doing away with umbrellas, chairs, coolers. I mean, that in itself is dangerous because of the heat that we have with the exposure to the sun, and our citizens and visitors, that come here to rent spoke loud and clear on that, given the volume of the comments that we've got that we have. I think the chief and the city of Isle of Palms has a very effective social media campaign that they have going on, and being able to let people know what's going on in Isle of Palms, whether it be the traffic, what the latest news is. And I think we depend on that social media, along with all the press we're going to get on this also, to let people know that we are severely limiting parking at this point right now to try to get this under control. I think it's just a smart thing to do.
Okay, I think we have heard every angle there is. And Nicole, do you want to read back what our amended amendment is? So we can get.
Oh, we have to vote on the first amendment first.
That's what I'm trying to get.
I'll introduce the amendment to that.
Nicole.
Nicole, you're on mute.
Sorry, we're striking the language of removing the language about beach chairs, shade devices, and coolers are prohibited. We're removing that, and prohibiting parking on the land side of Palm Boulevard, prohibiting parking on municipal lots to 50%, and eliminating parking on the finger streets of 3rd to 9th Avenues, beginning the 17th of July, 2020 for 30 days.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember Smith.
Can we separate out there's 2 things going on there that are separate, totally separate issues. One is parking and one is related to striking the coolers and umbrella.
That's not going to be effective.
Let's
No.
vote, and then any amendments subsequent to that as we discuss.
We took those out, Susan, and it's really going to parking, music stopping at 9 o'clock.
Well, we haven't actually voted on removing
That's what we're trying to do.
right, but that's all together. And I would vote separately. I would vote to remove the language about coolers and umbrellas. I would not vote for what is being proposed for parking. Can we separate those out, please?
The amendment stands.
Call for a vote.
Thank you.
I got one question. Then.
Councilmember Buchanan, because you haven't spoken.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you. Again, I apologize. My computer went through a reboot as soon as the meeting started, so it was a little difficult to sign in. But it was interesting to hear what the chief had said, that he hasn't had a problem with social distancing enforcement along 21st to 41st, and especially in light of Sullivan's Island still having been shut down to cougars and being able to sit out there and set his head. You know, even in the front beach area, I mean, is not as bad as what you'd anticipate it being. So, I mean, I think we've got a good handle on it. And like I said, I'm coming late to the party. When you're talking about noise, this noise at 9 o'clock, you realize there's only 2 bars on the island that have music, and they both stop at 9 o'clock right now. So it's really not an issue. So all you're really doing is you're stopping music at 9, saying that this COVID is only susceptible up until 9, but from 9 to 11, when the bars are mandated to shut down by state, there's not a problem. So that doesn't quite make sense to me as well. And I'm not what the reasoning is behind that. And for the day, I like the fact that you're doing this for 30 days and not the 61 taking it past. But still, we're managing parking along Palm now better than it ever has been. I think if anything, we need to control the parking that's happening down by the rec center, because we're going to continue. That's where the rest of the overflow is going to go. People are going to leave Palm Boulevard and they're going to inundate Hartnett, 27th and 29th.
I do, Mayor, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Councilmember Buchanan brings up a good point to consider for the group and discuss that currently the area between 27th and 29th on Hartnett is currently unregulated. So unless any new regulations are put in place, that area would be open.
And we really can't put regulations without going through the full process, but we can control the parking down there by one layer. Can we not do that under the emergency powers?
Well, you could restrict parking there or limit parking there, as well as this, the same way that you're doing on Palm.
Okay.
So
let's just add it into it.
So are we talking about eliminating parking at the rec center or
Beachgoers?
We're
I
on the
think-
amendment written right now, correct?
I don't think it refers to Councilmember Smith to the area on 28th Avenue and the paved parking spaces on 27th, which are meant for rec center activities. What I was referring to is the right of way along Hartnett between 27th and 28th.
Right.
However, you will still be allowing significant parking at the rec center.
Along it'd be along 27th Avenue, along, I believe, 29th Avenue.
And 29th, correct.
Mm-hmm.
Unless amended.
Currently those areas are unregulated.
All that to say, you're still going to have people push that direction for
Unless
parking.
amended. We have an opportunity to amend.
Although we have that going on now, I live on 27th Avenue, it fills up. I'm not a NIMBY type of guy. It's not my backyard. It fills up and it doesn't bother me. I'm just saying there are other places. Hartnett could be an issue. Because I have designated parking spots, whether you use it for parking or whether you use it to play baseball or basketball. It's not and go to the beach. It's not a problem. The problem where it's going to be is along Hartnett, along 29th, where you have a ditch and I think it's just one of those things you may have to address. And honestly, I think if you eliminate parking down Palm Boulevard, you're still going to have some of the same issues. And Chief, you can chime in here if you want. A lot of the cars parking on the avenues from Palm almost up to Cameron. We got a lot of parking in that area. It's, again, I'm going to bring up our whack-a-mole problem. And people, you're going to push down parking in one area. It's just going to pop up somewhere else. And so now we're taking our police off the beach, where we're trying to reduce spread, where we're trying to reduce groups and gatherings. Now we're taking them off the beach and putting them in to enforce parking instead of trying to reduce groups. We're already down officers because of COVID. We're down some police officers. So now we're limited, but now we'd rather have them enforcing restricted parking instead of enforcing the problem that we have in the first place, which is large groups and gatherings on the beach.
Councilmember Moore.
Mr. Mayor, I don't think it's, I don't think we've said this enough. So I'm going to restate something that some of my colleagues have said, which is the efforts that we're undertaking today. First of all, they have to be radical. We have a serious, major crisis on our hands here. We can't say that enough. That's point number one. Point number two is that the actions that we're taking are meant to reduce the crowds coming onto Isle of Palms. The first thing we did as a governing body is we restricted access in its entirety because, frankly, you know, that was the path of least resistance to kind of wrap our heads around what's going on. And as we learn more about the crisis, as we learn more about the disease, as we learn more about how what patterns are emerging from human behavior, we're able to adapt. And that's what we've been doing. That's what the leaders at a federal and state level, at county level have been doing as well. Right now, the proposal is one means to restrict and reduce the amount of crowds that are coming onto the island. There was one proposal to say, hey, we know if we have the quote unquote keep it in motion in place, that will reduce crowding on the beach. We heard loud and clear that the majority of our residents and the majority of people coming to the beach don't want that. So we said, here's an alternative way to reduce the amount of crowds coming out to the beach, which is to restrict the places that they can park. If there's another alternative to restrict crowds, by all means suggest it, but don't continually tell us that people are going to social distance on the beach. We're not trying to enforce social distancing on the beach right now. We heard from Dr. O'Brien that the spread on the beach is relatively low. The problem is that people are coming to the island and they're congregating indoor spaces. And so we're just trying to reduce the crowds that are coming out to the Isle of Palms because we cannot handle the concentration of tens of thousands of people coming onto this small island.
I think we have discussed this well. I like the direction we're going, and I think we're making a very strong statement. And we were already on that way for this winter, but now we're just pushing it forward. It'll be for the next 30 days, but I think we're at the time where we need to vote.
Call for the question.
Well, I have one question before that, if I may. I don't think that there was any action on the unregulated areas around the rec center, and I just want to clarify for us, you know, what the intention is. If that area is going to be no parking or left unregulated.
Ryan, you want to restrict Hartman Boulevard and 29th as residential?
You can vote on this, if I may. You can vote on this and then add Hartnett and the surrounding areas in as an amendment.
Okay.
That might be a cleaner thing to do than
Let's
jump
do that.
back.
Okay, yeah. Thank you, Nicole.
Okay, so are we voting on calling the question, or are we just gonna vote? I didn't hear anybody second the call the question.
Right.
Just vote.
Just vote.
Okay.
Vote.
I'll second it. So,
Well,
and would you clarify what we're voting on for everybody to understand?
okay, we're striking the language from the proposed ordinance to prohibit the use of beach chairs, coolers, and shade devices. And we are prohibiting parking on the land side of Palm Boulevard, limiting parking to 50% in the municipal lots, and eliminating parking on the finger streets of 3rd to 9th Avenues, beginning July 17, 2020 for 30 days. Councilmember Streetman.
Aye.
Councilmember Bell.
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds.
Aye.
Councilmember Smith.
Nay.
Councilmember Buchanan.
Aye.
Councilmember Moy.
Aye.
Councilmember Ward.
Aye.
Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-1.
Thank you very much. Now, talking about Hartman Boulevard and 29th Avenue. Ryan, do I hear a motion?
No, this is one of the things. This is one of the things we're working in public safety right now. But I guess we can roll this into
For the next 30 days at least.
Yeah, for the next 30 days is to eliminate some of the parking in the residential areas there on Hartnett Boulevard.
I would be a little more specific than that. Some.
No, I'm between 27th and 29th. Make it
Jimmy, I
residential.
still want to offer the amendment that I offered, and I'm happy to include that in the amendment.
So for the next 30 days, we're eliminating parking on Hartnett Boulevard between 27th and 29th. Is that your motion?
No, we're making it residential only.
Okay.
And that's the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
A second. And Councilmember Bell, you have something to say?
Yeah, I never got to offer the amendment that I was trying to on the first one, which was to eliminate all parking on Palm, both sides of the road for all of Palm. And I would like to make that in the form of a motion.
Can we do one at a time?
Either that or we can roll. Yeah, do one at a time because you're going to get
One
two
at a
different.
time.
Okay.
So right now, the motion on the floor from Councilmember Buchanan is to make the areas of between 27th and 29th on Hartnett Boulevard residential parking only, correct?
Yes.
And Councilmember Streetman, you seconded that motion?
I did.
Okay.
Councilmember Smith.
I believe our recreation director would like to suggest that we make that recreation parking only.
Okay,
For
that makes sense.
So a friendly amendment to allow for recreation department parking only?
Recreation, as we do with the parking lots, correct. So people can pull up there and play basketball and what have you, but we don't want to be inundated and take away those parking spots for people who want to use the rec center.
Right.
Okay. So the areas between 27th and 29th on Hartnett are for recreation department parking only.
Correct,
Or residential. I mean, is that one and the same or not?
I would think.
Yeah.
All right, I'll put both words in to be clear.
Okay.
First motion
No
made.
Discussion, ready for the vote.
Okay. Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Thank you very much. Councilmember Bell, do you have something to say?
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'd like to make a motion to eliminate all parking on Palm Boulevard for the same period as the ordinance that passed.
Second.
Wait a second. Discussion.
I have a question, Mayor.
Yes, ma'am.
Will there be a time limit? Is it meant to be 24/7 or 8 to 8? I had received a
24/7.
question from the Turtle team. We have people who come in and walk the 7 miles of the beach looking for nests, and sometimes they're from off island. And I wanted to bring that up for you all to discuss and consider.
24/7.
Agree.
Any other discussion? Councilmember Smith.
I'll just reiterate my points that I am surprised to see us being unwelcoming to the greater community in how they can access the beach, which has just a variety of positive benefits and is a better alternative than them staying indoors. And when our chief has told us that social distancing is not a problem in that stretch of Palm Boulevard, I'll just restate, I'm fine with landward parking, eliminating parking on the landward side of Palm, but I think you're creating a lot of problems and potentially making some situations worse in terms of coronavirus and what we're trying to do by taking this measure.
Any other discussion? I'll say something. Councilmember Smith, I tend to agree with you. I think we've been moving towards parking on the ocean side of Palm for a while now, and it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. And I think, as the chief says, that we don't have a social distancing problem down there from 21st to 41st anyway. So I'm like you, I'm not going to support that one, even though I think we're making drastic measures already, and I'm glad of the direction we're going. Anyone else before we vote? Hearing
Yes.
none. Oh, was that a yes? You want to talk or not?
Yes.
Yes, sir. We can't see you, so
It's
Speak
just
up.
growing, it's been beaten to death, but I want to state it again. It's just temporary.
Correct.
Yeah,
Thank you.
understand. 30 days. No, he's doing 24/7, 30 days. Is that correct, Councilmember Bell?
That is correct. And just one further comment, keep in mind, we are probably going to get the overflow from Folly Beach and Sullivan's Island because we removed the restrictions that they are likely to have in place. And that's per discussion with the mayor this morning. I'm assuming those are accurate statements that they will pass the restrictions on umbrellas, chairs, and coolers. So we can sit here today and say we don't have a problem. I'd like to get in front of a problem for a change. Every time we do these meetings, it's a reaction to a problem that occurs instead of us thinking ahead and planning not to have a problem. And that's all I've got.
Okay, again, for 30 days only, correct?
Correct, 24/7, 30 days.
Okay. How about the turtle people in the morning and the afternoon?
I'm sorry?
The turtle people, maybe we can find some way to make arrangements to cover them in somebody's yard nearby.
Yeah.
We'll work that out on the outside.
Yeah.
Nicole, I think we're ready.
Very
Well,
good.
one question, did we solve or talk about whether residents with a proper decal will be able to park on Palms? There's some that live along there that use,
Yes,
the right of way to park.
residents with proper decals.
We discussed that earlier.
Okay.
Well, just to clarify, as part of the amendment, yes.
All right, so we're voting on eliminating all parking on all of Palm Boulevard for the next 30 days, 24/7 enforcement. However, the exception would be residents with proper decals can park along Palm Boulevard.
Yes.
Yes? All right.
Yes.
All right, Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Nay.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Okay.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
God, this has been a tough one, but I'm going to say aye.
the motion passes 6-2.
Okay. No executive session needed. Mr. Buchanan, do I hear anything from you?
Mayor,
Have-
Oh, wait, yes, ma'am.
I apologize. I just need to bring up the parking that's happening along Palm Boulevard between around 57th Avenue as part of the construction of the hotel. Is that something, I mean, are we talking about no parking at all 24/7?
Good point. Chief, help us.
Wait.
Wait a minute, Susan.
I wish it were a very simple answer of they could use, the only thing I think of is they're gonna have to make copies of all their business licenses for their businesses and put those in their windows and we could grant that. We
Well,
normally would
everything
give,
else is shut down in Wild Dunes. They have parking available.
That's true.
Golf course is open. Yeah.
That's true. Very much. Are they closed for how long?
Till August.
1 month,
1 month.
30
We're talking
days.
1 month.
We're covered.
Yeah. Councilmember Streetman.
Yeah, I don't think any of us want to deny parking for anyone that's out here doing legitimate work, that's licensed contractors, maintenance workers, landscapers, anybody that has a business license and has business contracted on Isle of Palms, I think they should be allowed to park. But again, they need to be able to prove that they're legitimately here. So hopefully that would not be an unintended consequence there, and we would allow that.
Council members
Mr. Well-
Moy and then Smith, because you've talked a lot. Let me
I didn't think
Johnson.
we ever voted on the original. I thought we only voted on amendments, never the original ordinance.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
Right.
We're
That
still
was my
getting there.
issue.
Okay.
And Mayor, if I may,
Yes, ma'am, please.
if there is an intent to allow contractors who have a proper business license to be able to park on Palm if they are conducting business or doing any work, I think it would be helpful to include it as part of the ordinance as an exception.
Yes.
Who's making a motion?
Do we need one on this, or?
Yes, I would include it as a motion, as an
Do a
exception
friendly
to be included.
Could that be done as a friendly amendment?
I think now you have to make an emotion since you're adding something to the whole ordinance.
I will make a motion that properly licensed businesses conducting business, and you can word this, but it's where they're parked. I mean, if you're building a house, if you're servicing a home, if you're mowing lawns, and you have the proper documentation, that you so be allowed to do so.
I second that.
Second.
It's already in the ordinance. We are-
We're just clarifying for 30 days.
Yeah.
Just clarifying.
Okay. Hearing no discussion. Nicole?
Councilmember
Roll call.
Streetman?
Wait, I'm sorry.
We're voting on the amendment to allow legitimate businesses with proper signage to park in these areas we've eliminated.
Okay, that was just talking over me, I guess, but you call for me to vote?
Yep.
Aye.
Yes. Okay. Councilmember Bell,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor?
Okay, now back
vote
to
on
the
the
very. Yes, ma'am.
Original motion as amended?
Yes, ma'am. And
We
would you
ready?
clarify, so everybody is on the same page? I see Councilmember Smith has got a question.
I was also didn't think that we had fully voted. I would respectfully request that we separate out the two issues of indoor requirements for bars and parking separately, because I would like to vote differently on them. And I don't know if Councilmember Buchanan might as well.
It's a whole ordinance as a whole. I don't think we can.
It's an ordinance as a whole.
We've already voted on it.
Mhm.
But we haven't voted on have we voted on the part about the bars and restaurants?
Yeah.
Yes.
Motion to amend it?
We've just voted on a motion to amend.
We've only made motions to amend that one section about the beach chairs, et cetera, and then added parking to that. There's a section of the same ordinance that involves the 50% capacity. If you want to make an amendment to that, we can do that, which will amend the entire ordinance. Does that make sense?
No. Wait, say it again.
Desiree, or Julia, you guys make it? Am I not making my?
No, you're right, Nicole. Susan, if you want to address or speak or change anything as it relates to the bars and restaurants, that section of the ordinance, we can start by making a motion to amend any provision in there if you want to change it. That's the best way to handle that, because we have not voted on the ordinance as a whole.
Well,
Okay.
Bars and restaurants are already limited to 50% right now anyhow. So it doesn't, I mean, per the state law. So the only thing this is going to do is, because restrictions were lifted by the governor a while ago on other businesses that could be opened at full capacity, this actually goes back and supersedes, that. So
Mayor, if I may.
Yeah, Desiree, please, because I think we still need to find a solution for our turtle team.
Well, and I wanted to clarify, there are currently no restrictions in place in terms of occupancy limits for restaurants and bars.
Right.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I have a question about, thank you. I have a question about the site. I guess I'm looking at the statement about restaurants and bars being at 50%. And what is the impact of a citation issued? And I guess my real question is whether or not that has teeth to, or, we increased fines for parking to $100 because we didn't feel like the previous fines were substantial enough. And I don't know if this citation is, I just want to make sure that it's enough to say this is something that we take seriously. And I certainly intended to be a temporary, but, to make sure that businesses know that the compliance is absolutely expected, and enforcement will, there will be strict penalties.
The ordinance includes the ability to suspend business licenses, Councilmember Moy. And Julia, you may want to add to that in the event, if we feel like we need to add some language to that. But currently it does include that ability.
Correct. We can go after the business license. We can also file for an injunction to shut the place down through court action if we need to,
So,
as it's written.
Just real quick on this same point, we went through this with rental properties and discussed that it would need to go due process. We will completely defeat the purpose if we've got to wait for a court docket while we're in a 30-day pandemic situation. So is there something, Julia, that we can do that has more immediate teeth, to Councilmember Moy's point?
I think per the executive order, it's written in here, we could file something with the court to stop them from operating until they follow the terms of our ordinance through filing in the circuit court. That's an extreme measure, but it is something that we can do if we have someone who's blatantly violating.
I don't know that we serve any purpose. That's a question, not a statement.
Okay. Julia? Okay, Councilmember Moy, I think you need to hand up again. No?
I'm sorry. Yeah, and I know that this is my last comment on this, because this is probably the most important part of this ordinance. And because we've heard from Dr. O'Brien, we've seen the data that the place where COVID is spreading the most are the indoor areas where you have a concentration of people. And I have been encouraged to see our businesses adapt and turn to takeout foods, turn to, using the outdoor seating. I wish that we could do more to spread outdoor seating, and I'd certainly entertain anything that we can do as a city to open up more areas of outdoor seating, because I want our businesses to continue to thrive and exist. But the fact of the matter is, the indoor service, it's got to change, and we have to prevent people from being indoors. And this, to me, is the most impactful part of the ordinance for helping stop the spread of COVID.
Mayor, again, the law for South Carolina restaurants, occupancy is at 50% right now. So all this does, I'm just saying, which is fine. The law reads for restaurants and bars is 50%. And so basically what it does is enforce 50% rule on all other businesses. I just want to make that clear. So.
Okay. John, are you clear on that? 50% is where we're at, and social distancing is already part of it.
I'm not looking for clarity necessarily, in as much as on the 50%. That's pretty straightforward. My primary concern was ensuring that there was action that the city could take. Should we identify? Should anybody exceed this 50% rule? And certainly, I would encourage our city staff and our public safety to be very diligent in enforcing this, and make it known that we are very serious about enforcing this particular ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Smith?
Well, I guess for the sake of simplicity in voting, I'll just go ahead and fine with voting on all of this at once, if that's how we need to do it. I want to make it clear that I am concerned about the spread, and I think that our focus should be indoors. And so I will support this because I want to help send a strong message that we need to be taking strong actions on stopping the spread in indoor places. But I do have obviously strong reservations about what we're doing with the parking situation. But I will still support it for the larger mission.
Greater good.
Thank you.
Greater good.
I would like to make sure, Nicole, before we go forward with the final vote, we've already taken care of the workers at the Wild Dunes, but we still, we're an island. The sea turtles are something that we pride and take care of. I think we need to take care of our turtle team, as long as they're properly marked in their cars, because we're going to be there early in the morning to walk the beach and in the evenings. So I would like to make a motion that we create a, something that we can get them to put in the dashboard of their car. The same as the workers in the Wild Dunes.
I'll second. Just a special
Discussion?
pass, right? I mean,
Yes, yes. No
Yeah,
more
we can
discussion?
create something for them and distribute it to the team.
Thank
Right,
you.
Chief?
Yes, actually, we don't even, they can just come see me and I can take care of this tomorrow.
Okay, we're ready. for
Thank you,
the-
Chief.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell,
aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Aye.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Moy,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll,
Aye.
all in favor? I'm going to vote
Now
as
down.
amended.
As amended. Now back to our original.
Motion as amended.
Yes, ma'am.
Do I need to go through the amendments?
No.
Yeah, I
Yeah, please do.
Wait.
Yes.
think you should, for the
Wait.
general public sake, yes.
What,
Yeah, that'll
wait,
be helpful.
okay, wait, what were we just voting on? I thought we were voting on the everything.
That was the
No.
a motion to provide parking passes for
Oh, okay,
total team.
okay.
Okay. As amended includes the elimination of language prohibiting the beach chairs, coolers, and shade devices while prohibiting parking on the land side of Palm Boulevard, limiting lots, municipal lot parking to 50% and eliminating parking on the finger streets of 3rd through 9th Avenue beginning July 17, 2020 for 30 days. We are also eliminating parking along Palm Boulevard for the next 30 days. Residents with proper decals may park there. We're also restricting parking on Hartnett between 27th and 29th for recreation and residential parking only. These are all parking restrictions are for 24/7 for 30 days. We're also allowing properly licensed businesses to park in areas near where they are working, as long as they show proper signage. And the city is providing proper signage to members of the Turtle Team to allow them to park to go onto the beach.
Thank you for the clarification. We're ready.
Good, okay. Councilmember Ward,
Aye.
Councilmember Pounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Buchanan,
Nay.
Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Streetman,
Aye.
Councilmember Bell.
Aye.
I'm gonna forget, besides the mayor. I got the mayor.
Moy.
Mayor- Councilmember Moy.
Aye.
There we are. I knew it's short a number. And Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
The motion passes 7-1.
Thank you very much. No executive session necessary. And where's my council member Buchanan?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, public.
Bye, everyone.
Desiree,